Hey guys, how's it going? Angela from Creating It here. So glad to have you back because today I have an extra special thing that I want to teach you, and it is how to knit on circular needles. These are really cool little guys because basically what it is two needles that are connected by a cord of some kind. When you learn how to knit on these, look out because it is going to open up a whole new bag of projects for you. You can actually make hats, you can make wrist warmers, you can make anything tubular on this, so it opens up a whole new world. So the really cool thing about this also is that because you're knitting in a continuous loop going up, you always have the right side facing you versus if you're working on two needles and then you have to turn your work back and forth and then you have a right side and a wrong side. The right side is always facing you here. So you might be asking, well, how do I know if I get to the end of a row if I'm not working back and forth? Good question, and I'm going to show you. You basically are going to put a stitch marker right at the beginning of your row so that every time you get to the end, you know exactly when you've completed a row. Let me show you how to do this. So I have some examples here to kind of give you an idea of what set of needles you would choose for which project. So right here, this is the one that is a 16-inch set of needles. And you can see the cord there is a little bit shorter. And I use this one for hat projects. This is the perfect size that I use. And this is pretty much what you would use for something about the size of a hat. So you'd want 16-inch needles. And then right here, I have one. And this is a really long cord length. This is something you'd want to use on a circular project if you were, say, doing something that was really big in the round, some kind of tube project. Or if you wanted to, you can actually work back and forth on circular needles as well. And I'll show you that in just a minute. And then right here we have this style of circular needles, which is super cool. They usually come in sets because I'll show you why. The way these work is they are interchangeable with their cords. So all you would have to do is unscrew the needle from the little cord here, and then just unscrew the other needle from the cord here. And then what people would usually do is just swap out different size cords, but you get to use the same needle. So you don't have to buy a new pair of needles every single time. You just swap out the length of the cord there. And then when you're ready to use your correct cord length, you would just screw that on just like that. So these are three different examples of circular needles that you can work with projects on. So now, as I talked about earlier, you can actually use circular needles to work extra long projects back and forth. I started working on this shawl right here, but as you can see, this is a really long project, and there aren't going to be needles that are 2 feet long in order to work with. So this is when circular needles come in handy with extra long cord length. Now these cord lengths can come in all different lengths. The possibilities are really endless. But what's nice is you can work back and forth on these. You just will not join them in the round. So you would just work all the way to the end of your needle. Then you would turn it and work back and forth as if these were straight needles. Now I'm going to show you how you would cast on your circular needles when joining in the round. So for this example here, I've got my 16-inch length needles and I've got my yarn. And again, you just want to match up the weight of your yarn with your needle just like you normally would. And then what you're going to do is grab one of the needles and you're going to cast on just like you regularly would. So you just hold that one needle and then cast on the correct number of stitches. So here I have cast on 48 stitches, and I just cast it on as if this was a straight needle, just like you regularly do. And now this is where it gets different from knitting flat. You're going to want to join this side with this side so that you can continuously knit in the round. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold your needles just like this with the part that has the yarn on your left side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scooch the stitches up close to the needle point so that they're distributed like this. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is you are going to want to slip this one just like this as if to purl. So slip this one from the left first onto your right needle. Don't let it fall. We're going to slip it right onto there. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is take this stitch here and we're going to loop it over onto that one. So we're doing kind of a crisscross. So let me show you. So very carefully leaving that one there. You're going to come up under here. And it can get a little bit awkward at the beginning, but that's okay. So see how we hooked that one right there? Okay, now we're going to loop this one over that one. So watch this. Okay, holding that one on right there. Okay, and then we're going to loop it just like that. So if you can see what we did, see how these are crisscross? We basically just swapped them over and onto the other needles. So that's what that looks like. So we basically just did a crisscross. To get started, this is where you're going to want to place your stitch marker. So any kind of ring, even a tied piece of string, anything just to mark your spot right here will work. So go ahead and put your stitch marker over the right needle, just like so. And that's going to mark the beginning of your round right there. So scooch this up just a little bit. Now what we're going to do is start knitting over here. So just follow the instructions for your pattern or whatever stitches that you're working on. So now go through this one, and I'll go through this to knit. Grab your yarn. Okay, knit that. There's your first stitch. And I'll knit a couple more just so you can see how this works. And if you look here, you can see how your stitch marker just stays in that spot there, and that's going to mark the beginning of your round when we come all the way over here and to the end. So let me finish knitting this row and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so now I've come to my very last stitch, and you're just going to knit that like normal. And then there you are to your stitch marker. So that right there would mark one row of your pattern. And the thing you would do is just take the stitch marker off of that needle, just put it onto your next needle, and now this would begin your row number 2. And you would just work it like you normally would. And here I've worked a bunch of rounds on my project, and you can see how it starts building up the rows and it creates a tube like garment, and in this case a hat. So you would just want to follow the instructions for the pattern you're working on. So this is pretty much the basics to knitting in the round. So now you know how to knit in the round. I hope you had a super fun time learning how to do this. Let me know what you end up making in the comments below. And then again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me. So until next time, see you later.